Hi, I'm Connor. I'm 36, and 2 months ago, my daughters were tossed a pair of crumpled paper napkins across a linen-covered dinner table like they were dogs. And I didn't say a word. Not right away, anyway. The waiter hadn't even finished pouring the water when my mom leaned back in her seat and flicked her wrist like a dismissive empress. "Your kids can eat when they get home," she said, like it was nothing. Like it was kindness. Like they weren't sitting right there beside me, still in their soccer uniforms, cheeks flushed and hair matted from practice, clutching plastic menus with pictures of $32 cheeseburgers and truffle fries. Then came the napkins. Too cheap, wrinkled paper things pulled from her purse and tossed like table scraps. Across the table, my sister Melissa's girls were already unwrapping to-go boxes with gold foil logos. Boutique pasta, stacked tiramisu, fancy water in glass bottles shaped like designer perfume. Her husband Daniel was chuckling to himself, not even glancing at me as he muttered, "Should have fed them first." I felt something cold unspool in my chest. But I smiled politely. I leaned down to my daughters, Emma, 10, and Riley, 8, and whispered just loud enough for my wife to hear, too. "Copy that." Then I stood up. The waiter blinked, pen still hovering over his pad. I should back up. You need to understand how we got here, how I ended up at that table with my wife holding back tears, my daughters confused and shrinking, and my mother, who invited us under the guise of a family catch-up, tossing napkins like I'd forgotten to feed my pets before dinner. My family isn't normal dysfunctional. It's not funny quirky or light dramatic. It's a slow-motion train wreck, the kind that insists the engine is perfectly on track while the caboose is engulfed in flames and children are waving for help from the windows. My sister Melissa is 2 years older and was born wearing a tiara. When we were kids, if she spilled juice, it was my fault for distracting her. If she forgot homework, I was blamed for not reminding her. She didn't just get the bigger slice of cake, she got the cake stand. She married well, of course. Daniel's one of those guys who looks like he owns a tech startup, even though I'm pretty sure his biggest professional achievement is networking. Their house has a guest room they call a wellness suite, and a dog that gets birthday cards from my parents. Meanwhile, I live in a modest 3-bed and haven't seen my mom send my girls anything, not a card, not a sticker, for their birthdays in at least 3 years. But I don't expect it anymore. Hope left the building around the time Emma started school, and my mom forgot which grade she was in, but could recite Melissa's kids' piano schedules by heart. My mom, Elaine, is the queen of selective generosity. Brunches, gifts, sleepovers, spa days, for Melissa's girls. And for mine? Budget better, Connor. But back to the dinner. We said yes to the invite only because she promised it was her treat. Paige, my wife, gave me the look as we were getting ready, that tight, skeptical one. "You really think this is a good idea?" "I think it's a chance," I said, adjusting Riley's bow and buttoning Emma's cardigan. "A chance for what?" Paige asked. "For them to try a new way of humiliating you?" She wasn't wrong. But I wanted to believe. Just once. I wanted one peaceful dinner. One where the girls felt seen. Celebrated. Like part of the family. We got to the restaurant 5 minutes early. Paige made sure the girls looked picture perfect. Riley even carried a tiny purse. Emma wore the white dress she saves for special occasions. They looked like angels. Melissa and her clan rolled in 10 minutes late, loud and laughing about some TikTok video I hadn't been tagged in. She air-kissed me, barely, and immediately turned to Paige. "Love your top," she said. "Didn't know they brought that brand back. Retro's cute." We sat. Daniel ordered wine before the waiter even introduced himself. Melissa launched into their summer travel plans. Camp in Vermont. Then a week in Italy. I poured water from a glass bottle into Riley's cup like I was performing a ritual. That's when Mom leaned into the waiter and said, "Oh, we've pre-ordered for them," flicking her eyes to Melissa's kids. "The chef knows what they like." I blinked. "You ordered for them?" I asked, trying to keep my voice calm. "Oh yes," she said, beaming. "The boxes are just easier. Kids like eating in their own rhythm." I glanced at my daughters, still flipping through the menu with hopeful fingers. "Did you order anything for Emma and Riley?" She looked puzzled. "Well, I assumed you brought snacks. They're kids. They don't need a $30 meal." "That's silly." They just came from practice, I said. They're starving. I'm sure they'll survive. She laughed softly and unfolded her linen napkin. Besides, they can eat at home. Then the napkins. From her purse. The paper ones. Tossed right across the table. That's when I leaned in, said, "Copy that," and stood up. The waiter was right there. "Everything all right, sir? Would you mind giving us a moment?" I said. He nodded and stepped back. I stood there for several seconds. Not angry. Not yet. Just scanning. Emma was still holding her menu, like maybe if she focused hard enough she'd disappear into it. Riley was whispering to Paige, whose jaw was locked like she was holding back a speech that could turn the place to rubble. "Connor, sit down," my mom said with a sigh, like I was embarrassing her. Melissa was already scrolling her phone, bored. Her daughters were feeding each other truffle mac and cheese like this was just another day in the kingdom. And that's when it hit me. Those boxes weren't just prepaid. They were boxed. My mom hadn't planned for them to share the table. This was intentional. I sat back down. Not because she told me to, but because I wasn't done. I just needed a better angle. The waiter came back. Melissa's family ordered like regulars. Paige and I helped the girls pick the cheapest items on the menu, a margarita flatbread and a side of fries. We didn't want to make a scene. Not yet. But that was before the real blow landed. Before the surprise Disneyland trip was announced. Before Paige said, "Our girls are your granddaughters too." And my mom responded with, "I'm sure they'll get to go someday." Before Emma looked down, and Riley blinked so fast I knew she was fighting tears. And before I stood up again, colder this time, more certain, and walked outside into the warm night that still felt like ice in my chest. Because that was the moment I knew. This wasn't a one-time slight. It was a pattern. A design. And I wasn't going to let my girls grow up inside it. Not anymore. I stayed outside for a full 5 minutes. Not pacing, not crying, not calling anyone, just standing, both hands braced on the railing like I needed something solid to stop me from floating away. Or combusting. Paige came out a minute later. Her heels clicked sharply across the stone path. "You okay?" she asked, even though we both knew the answer. I shook my head. "No. But I know what I'm going to do." She looked at me, scanning my face. "What does that mean?" "It means I'm done playing house with people who think our daughters are background characters." She nodded once. Good. That was the last word either of us spoke until we were back home. The girls fell asleep in the car, one on each of our shoulders, their little heads tilted like sunflowers. Paige carried Riley in, and I lifted Emma. I could feel her breath warm against my neck, her arms still loosely wrapped around me. She trusted me. They both did. And I'd let them walk into a dinner they never should have been at. I didn't sleep that night. Neither did Paige. We sat on the porch under an old blanket, sipping tea, watching the neighbor's porch light flicker on and off. "You think I overreacted?" I finally asked. She scoffed. "Connor, that wasn't an overreaction. That was restraint. I thought maybe we'd hear something the next day. A text. A call. Maybe my mom would reach out. Or Melissa. Some olive branch, even if it was brittle and half-hearted. But silence. A full 72 hours of it. And then, the phone rang. Not my mom. Not Melissa. No, Aunt Debbie. Now, you have to understand something about Aunt Debbie. She's the family's designated peacemaker/apologist. She's the one who always says things like, "Your mother means well," or, "Melissa doesn't know how she comes across." She's been playing family PR rep for years. So when I picked up and she launched straight into, "Connor, did you really storm out of your mother's dinner and cause a scene?" I knew the propaganda campaign had already started. "Hi, Aunt Debbie," I said calmly. "Nice to hear from you." She didn't laugh. "Elaine is beside herself. Melissa said you made a dramatic speech about being mistreated and walked out, left them with the bill. I left $200 on the table. Paige and I took the girls out for ice cream. We were invited to dinner. Then told they couldn't eat. That's not what your mother said." "Of course it's not. Connor," she said in that matronly tone that always made me feel like I was 12 and in trouble for making waves at Thanksgiving. I know things aren't always fair, but do you really think this is how you handle it? There it was. Things aren't always fair. The phrase that's haunted every kid who grew up trying to make themselves small enough to fit into someone else's idea of acceptable. Aunt Debbie, I said slowly, I'm not asking for fairness. I'm asking for them to stop treating my kids like they're not part of this family. Silence on the other end. I understand, she finally said, softening. But your mom, she's proud, and she feels hurt. She says you embarrassed her. She should feel embarrassed. I snapped. She tossed napkins at my daughters like she was throwing bones to strays. She announced a Disneyland trip she planned for Melissa's kids and said mine could go someday. If she's embarrassed, maybe she should ask herself why. Another pause. I just don't want to see the family fall apart, she said, barely above a whisper. I sighed. Then maybe the family shouldn't have been built around a pedestal with Melissa's name on it. We ended the call politely. But it was cold. It felt like the final page of a book I didn't ask to be in. That night, Paige folded laundry in silence. When I told her about the conversation, she didn't look up. They'll never see it, she said. No matter how calmly you say it. They won't see. I nodded. And that's when it sank in. This wasn't a bump. This wasn't something we'd smooth over with an awkward Christmas or a strained birthday call. This was a fracture. Permanent. Irreversible. Overdue. And the aftershocks came quick. A week later, Melissa posted one of those vague status updates on Facebook. Family doesn't always mean blood. Some people just love playing the victim. Upside down face. Underneath, a dozen supportive comments. I know this feeling too well. Stay strong, Queen. Some people only want you when they need you. My mom commented a heart emoji. Emma saw it. She was sitting next to me, showing me a meme from her school's parent group when the notification popped up. She read it. Blinked. Then asked, Is that about us? I didn't answer right away. What do you think? She was quiet for a long time. Then she put the phone down and said, I don't want to go to Grandma's anymore. I nodded. You don't have to. That night, Paige and I sat on the porch again. Cold crept under the blanket this time. The silence between us wasn't tense, it was settled. Like something inside both of us had stopped resisting gravity. I don't want them growing up like I did, I said finally. Walking on eggshells. Wondering what version of love they're getting that day. Paige reached for my hand. Then don't let them, she said. And that's when I started planning. Not revenge. Not yet. That would come later. This was distance. The kind you build on purpose. I started by muting the group chat. The one where my mom posted daily memes and no one ever replied when I shared anything about the girls. Then I quietly left it. No announcement. Just, Connor has left the conversation. Next, we began politely declining everything. Cousin birthdays. Baby showers. Easter brunch. Cookouts. Each response was the same. Sorry, we've got plans. Sometimes we didn't. Sometimes peace was the plan. Then came the social media clean sweep. Paige and I both blocked Melissa. Not to be petty. For preservation. So she couldn't tag us, drag us, or spin the narrative any further. And for a while, it was calm. No more passive-aggressive texts. No more weird jokes about how the girls must be busy when they were deliberately excluded. No more calls from Aunt Debbie. But just when I thought the silence might stick, a formal invitation arrived. Cream envelope. Gold cursive. Inside, an RSVP card for Melissa's latest masterpiece. A pre-divorce rebirth party. Yes, you read that right. Melissa and Daniel were separating, and rather than mourn the end of her marriage, she decided to celebrate it. Full theme. Printed itinerary. Dress code, Beyoncé lemonade chic. And at the bottom. No kids. This is an adult glow-up celebration. Family support is expected. Attached was a handwritten note from my mother. It would mean the world if you came to show her some love. She's really hurting. Let's put the past behind us. I slid the invite across the table to Paige. She blinked, looked at it, then looked at me. Are we being punked? I wish. From the kitchen, Emma called out, "What's a rebirth party?" Paige didn't miss a beat. It's when people throw a party for themselves to pretend everything's fine. I almost smiled. Almost. But something inside me twisted. Again. Because this wasn't just an invitation. It was an eraser. A demand to wipe the slate clean without so much as an apology. To show up, clap politely, pretend none of it ever happened. But I wasn't pretending anymore. And I wasn't walking in there unarmed. Because I was about to find out something that would change everything. Something buried. Hidden. Something worth fighting for. A secret inside my father's trust fund. And once I saw it, I wouldn't be pulling away anymore. I'd be going straight for the jugular. 3 days after Melissa's rebirth invitation, I got a call from an unknown number. It was a lawyer. Not mine, my late father's. "Mr. Walker," he said, formal and quiet, "your father's trust fund included a provision for equal distribution among all his grandchildren. We've been trying to contact you for over a year. I never received anything," I said. He paused. "That's unusual. You and your sister were both listed as contacts. Melissa signed for her side 3 years ago. Her daughters received early disbursements. About $10,000 each. I went cold. My daughters got nothing. More silence. I see. That's concerning." It was more than concerning. It was theft. And suddenly, every time my mother said, "You should budget better," every napkin tossed at my daughter's feet, every "someday" she offered instead of "you belong," took on a darker tone. This wasn't passive neglect. This was deliberate exclusion, in life and in legacy. That night, I told Paige everything. She didn't even flinch. Just grabbed her laptop and said, "Then we fix it." I didn't raise my voice. I didn't call anyone to rant. I called a financial advisor, Denise, referred to me by a friend. Sharp, surgical, no nonsense. "This isn't just shady," she said, flipping through the documents I'd compiled. "It's actionable." That word hit different. Actionable. While Melissa posted Instagram captions like, "Rise and reclaim," I started building a war chest. Denise helped me collect every receipt, every signed withdrawal, every disbursement log showing Melissa's kids had been funded like trust fund royalty, while mine were given paper napkins. Then I found something else. Buried deep in the trust documents, in a dusty appendix no one had bothered to check, was a clause my father had insisted on. If a trustee allocates more than 60% of funds to less than 50% of eligible beneficiaries, the trust may be reassigned by petition, no majority needed. Melissa's daughters, over $20,000. My daughters, $0. And that's when I realized I wasn't just entitled to act. I was obligated to. But I wasn't done. While digging through old folders, I found a contact card labeled Paul M. Paul Martinez, my father's original trust consultant. Retired now, living upstate. I called. He remembered my dad immediately. "Your father was intentional," he said. He wanted fairness above all. He was afraid favoritism would follow him into the grave. He made me write that clause myself. "Do you still have your notes?" "I do." 2 days later, he emailed a scanned letter my dad had written, to be opened only if the kids fight. The header read, "To Elaine, if you're reading this, something went wrong. And I'm not surprised." He wrote about how he feared Melissa's entitlement, and Elaine's blindness would alienate my family. How he created the trust as a safeguard against exactly what had happened. "If you cannot bring yourself to treat Connor's children the same way you treat Melissa's, step aside. Let someone else do what you won't. Do not dishonor their names. Do not dishonor mine." That letter was my nuclear warhead. I filed a formal court petition for trustee reassignment, citing breach of fiduciary duty, unethical conduct, and financial favoritism. The hearing was set for 3 weeks later. I told no one. No warning. Let them find out the way I did, by surprise. The courtroom was plain. No drama. Just a judge with silver hair and a sharp pen. I handed in a packet of evidence. Disbursement logs showing 60% plus of trust funds given to Melissa's kids. $0 to mine. A travel reimbursement deposited into Elaine's personal account. A fraudulent dental charge under Riley's initials, denied by our actual dentist. A statement from Paul Martinez, confirming my father's intent. And finally, my father's letter. The judge took her time. Read each page. Her eyes narrowed slightly with each one. Then she looked up. Mrs. Walker, do you dispute this? Elaine, in her stiff blazer and perfect posture, barely blinked. I was doing what I thought was best. Connor's always been proud. I didn't think he wanted the money. And yet you gave thousands to your other grandchildren, without question? Melissa's children had real needs, she said flatly. They asked. So did mine, I said. Just not with words. The judge nodded slowly. Then she picked up her pen. Petition granted. Elaine Walker is removed as trustee. A neutral fiduciary will be appointed. All transactions from the past 5 years will be audited. Further legal action is pending. I didn't cheer. I didn't smirk. I just breathed. For the first time in years. The fallout started fast. Melissa texted me. You actually had Mom removed? You've ruined everything. You are disgusting. Then she posted a Bible verse about betrayal and some nonsense about family. A week later, the court-appointed trustee froze Melissa's daughter's enrichment accounts. She was told to reimburse nearly $11,000. Her social media business quietly shut down. Her followers tanked. Clients pulled out. Reputation gone. Elaine tried one last move. She emailed Paige. Connor's turned into someone I don't even recognize. Your father would be ashamed. We forwarded the letter to the new trustee. Then we went on vacation. Not to Disneyland. We rented a cabin in the Smokies, lit a fire every night, hiked under falling leaves, made hot chocolate in mugs that didn't match. One night, Riley looked out the window at the snow and asked, Do you think Grandpa would have liked this? I smiled. He would have loved it. Emma curled into my side. I think he'd be proud of you. Paige kissed my shoulder. I know he would. We got home to a certified letter. The audit was complete. Elaine had spent over $30,000 in misappropriated funds, on spa trips, travel, Melissa's kids' private lessons, and even consulting calls, billed as trust expenses. The new trustee filed a civil complaint. Elaine went silent. Melissa vanished from social media. The family stopped calling. And we kept going. The best revenge wasn't court wins or money clawed back. It was this. Emma humming again while doing homework. Riley laughing with her whole chest. Paige sleeping peacefully beside me. Our daughters knowing they are loved, valued, and unconditionally safe. No more earning affection. No more proving they belong. That's what we built, from scratch. From ashes. From paper napkins. And if you're wondering if it was worth it, if telling the truth is too messy, if walking away means losing everything, let me say this clearly. I walked away with everything that matters. And I never looked back.